Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the practitioners panel discussion, we've got on the cybersecurity for digitally transformed organizations, enterprise IT security checklist, important steps to create a secure network, internal cybersecurity preventing IT threats from inside, cybersecurity to support digital transformation, developing a roadmap for operational coordination and cyber incident, security awareness trainings. Can security awareness trainees for employees improve enterprise cybersecurity? And we're talking about information security compliance standards. Well, we've got with us our speakers. First up, Fene Osakwe, the Associate Director, IT Governance, Risk and Control, IHS TAS in Nigeria. Winnie has consulted for over 70% of the telecom companies in the West Africa and 50% of the commercial banks in Nigeria. He's worked in East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, and the Middle East, and the United States of America and Europe, and has valued network and web application security for multinationals in financial, manufacturing, telecommunications, and energy sectors. Also joining Fene would be Sandip Bhadury, the Chief Executive Officer, GA Insurance Limited, Kenya. Insurance and risk consulting broker with extensive business background across business verticals, multi-geography business experience, including 2 startups in 2 different non-English speaking countries, in India, United Kingdoms, Swaziland, and Rwanda. Also, we've got Kevin K. Yermi, the head of IT Jumia, Kenya. Kevin is a versatile IT professional all-rounder in network security, server administration, multi-operational system platforms, database management, hardware and software management, project management, amongst others. Also, we've got Winnie Sergon, the head of ICT and Innovation, Boresha Sacco Society Limited, Kenya. Well, Winnie is an industrious and ambitious person with an inner drive and great passion in what she chooses to undertake. A strategic thinker, innovative leader, technology lover, and a cybersecurity enthusiast with an interest in problem solving through automation. And this entire panel discussion is going to be moderated by Confidence Tolle, founder and executive director, CyberSafe Foundation, top 50 women in cybersecurity Africa 2020 Nigeria. Well, Confidence is cybersecurity awareness advocate, an ethical hacker, information technology expert, global shaper, author, and an entrepreneur with more than a decade worth of experience in technology. Well, as Confidence is also the top 50 women in cybersecurity Africa 2020 finalist, the executive director of African Women in Security Network, BBC Biz 100 expert, and an expert of technology within the African tech ecosystem. So, well, now it is time to have this incredible panel joining us, and thank you so much for being a part of our summit today. Over to you, Confidence.
Thank you so much, Bhavna, for that very warm introduction of every member of this interesting and exciting panel conversation. I see you, Fene, I see you, Sandip, I see you, Winnie, and Kevin, and I'm really excited to be having this conversation. And I'm looking forward to this panel because it couldn't have been a better time to have this conversation about the role cybersecurity plays in digital transformation. So we'll just get right into the conversation, and feel free to share your thoughts and just discuss as we go along. My energy is can be a bit very overwhelming, so just bear with me. I am just this way. Okay, first, I just want to ask for your thoughts on what exactly you believe the role of cybersecurity is in supporting organizations that are planning or undergoing a digital transformation in this time. We know that the pandemic, for one, forced all our hands to go into the 4th industrial revolution in weeks, literally. It's something that, we usually would have had to plan, budget resources for, have some strategic thinking and around it, and maybe some rowing in the boardroom literally had to happen without all of those processes, and really, really fast. So I wanna ask for your thoughts on the role cybersecurity plays. What do you think, Sandip? What are your thoughts about the role this plays, cybersecurity plays?
You see, the first thing is I'd like to tackle the question from the point of digital transformation. So as an organization, why do we need digital transformation actually? So the times in which we are living, our target audience, so like I sell insurance, whom am I selling insurance? What is going to be my future target clients? How do I attain scalability? for which, we need to plan as an organization how to disrupt the market, how to create personalized consumer experiences, how to be agile. Now, in the COVID situation has taught us about agility in terms of our workplace mobility. Now, once we have a technology, and we need technology for this digital transformation. So now, once we have technology and digital in place, the second thing is, what is the scalability of the technology? Now, once we talk about scalability of the technology, it increases our surface area in terms of network security. So now what happens is that in our day-to-day operations, suppose if I am going to sell insurance to 50,000 people, and it is totally supported on a digital platform, then how well my system is protected? What do I do when there is a disruption in the business operations? How do I adapt? How do I recover? So these are the elements where the areas where digital security or cyber security comes into picture. So basically, what I can say in terms of providing personalized consumer experiences, agility, scalability, and most importantly, cost savings. Now, if you see the basic penetration of financial services, especially insurance in African continent, other than South Africa, the uh, the penetration is very low. So one of the reasons why penetration is very low is accessibility. So one of the pain areas for any financial services company, including insurance, is the high operating expenses. So for us to attain scalability, cost savings, and bringing the cost of the product down, technology is a very important portion. So when we are so dependent on technology, how do I save my business operations from any external or internal disruption, which is based on IT? So that's why cybersecurity becomes very important. So it is directly related to our operating margin, actually.
Oh, that's a very good perspective to come from. I've hardly had a conversation around cybersecurity, and the word cost savings is consistently mentioned. But I like how you're tying in the dependence on technology to achieving scalability and cost savings. That's a very strong reason to have cybersecurity supporting and being an enabler for technology to actually help with the bottom line or increasing the bottom line. That's a very fantastic perspective. Thank you so much, Sandip. Fene, what are your thoughts? Sorry, not Fene. Kevin, I don't know if I can see your camera, but I can't see you yet. I don't know if you're still here. Kevin, are you here? Great. I think I can see you now. I just wanted to also ask for your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the role of cybersecurity in supporting the businesses that are planning or currently undergoing a digital transformation?
Thanks so much. From my end, I think what Sandip has said is about cost savings, but from my end, I'll deep dive on more on technical aspects on digital transformation and having cybersecurity as a part of it. For me, because I deal with a lot of digital transformation projects and cybersecurity projects, for my end, I would rather have them run concurrently. And the reason for that is that I'm in the industry of e-commerce, and security is critical for us because we have a lot of hits from hackers and everything. So from my end, basically is to say that security, yes, it's a bit expensive and it has to be a bit cost effective, but also depending on the digital transformation of the organization, there are key areas that we need to consider, and that is data security, application security, cloud security, depending on your organization model and how your digital transformation process is. From my experiences, what I understand is that different teams within different organizations have lead the digital transformation. Some it's done by the IT teams, and some is done by business manager. However, depending on the complexities involved, unfortunately, many organizations undervalue the role of security of their journey of digital transformation. So this is one of the major factors I think people or other organizations should consider, That is data security, application security. When you say data security in regards to implementation during development of databases, database and application level encryption should be implemented, tokenization on databases access, among other database securities. Then you have application securities. Right now, during the COVID times, we've had a lot of challenges trying to, because we have a lot of people working from home. So we have what you call VPN connections, and that's quite critical. And basically, that's like exposing our network infrastructure. So in terms of digital transformation, application security is very important, whereby hackers normally target application right now, especially during these COVID times, mobile applications and everything. We should have include tools and methods to protect apps once they are deployed. Then the other part is network infrastructure. I believe most of people, organizations which have employees working from home, the infrastructure has to be boosted up. And I'm sure most organizations have looked for solutions to improve their security in terms of access, remote access. So several solutions to mitigate such these network malicious attacks that we're having at the moment basically has to be taken into place, whereby you have to have firewalls, malware, protection solutions, anti-spam software, anti-phishing software, and probably the most important critical part in digital transformation is to have what you call policies for access roles and policies to guide employees on how to work with their software which is being implemented during that digital transformation. So I think that's my take on including cybersecurity during digital transformation within organizations.
I mean, that's an amazing perspective you've brought into the conversation there, and I will not let you go. My next question is literally coming to you, just taking you up on some of the things you've said.
Okay, sure.
I really liked that you mentioned cybersecurity as an operation critical factor. That can vary from industry to industry. In honesty, if we were to have that conversation in terms of how industries perceive cybersecurity's role in enabling digital transformation. Like you said, your sector, for example, is heavily attacked often. Same thing with financial sector, for example. But people in manufacturing across Africa might have a different thing to say around whether or not cybersecurity is so critical for them. But I like that we're having this sort of conversation. And I just want to take you up on some of the things you've said there around what enterprises should do. And I want to ask very directly, what do you believe an enterprise IT security checklist should contain? I mean, in the near term, in the mid-term, and in the long term, because I know that cyber resilience is a journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So that means there will be things you want to do today, and there will be things you want to do in 2 years, because if you try to do everything today, your business is literally not going to be able to, might not be able to take up the cost of these different people, processes, and technology improvement you might need to make. So what do you believe an enterprise IT checklist in terms of security should look like for near term, that's today, in some cases yesterday, and then mid-term, and then long term?
I think the checklist first has to start with policies. Policies that guide your security, and policies that guide your accesses to your applications. Secondly is basically the user, let's say, user account management, whereby you control accesses of users and employees within the company. Basically, more of identity and access management. That is, systems have access management and audit modules, so that you can always track whoever is doing what and what. Then you should have what you call user activity monitoring solutions. Okay. Solutions is whereby it monitors and track your user behavior, which will allow you to make decisions for the future on how you can change your organization, on how it works, on how your software works, on how your processes works. At least it can give you more of a trend on how your systems are. Apart from that, I think the rest are more a bit technical solutions. I think basically to do with firewalls, malware, anti-spam software protection, anti-phishing software, and the rest. I think have I answered your question?
I think you have, but it looks like Fene has something to say. He's
Yeah.
nodding, and Fene has Fene has quite an impressive experience from his time working and consulting around. And I want to twist that question a bit for Fene. He can always chime into the previous question, but I want to ask you specifically: what are the most important people, processes, or technology practices that enterprises must implement to create a secure network? And this is taken into perspective, for example, the current current landscape where the dynamics of working from home, of a distributed workforce, of that extended or exploded surface area for attacks has actually been created by the chaos and backdrop of the pandemic. I was looking at a report very recently where they were saying that the amount of RDP attacks has literally more than doubled in the past couple of months, and literally that's where a lot of the ransomware attacks are coming from. Most of us would have thought before now that phishing was beating RDP as the major route to ransomware, but that report was actually refuting that. And why RDP has been so successful in terms of RDP attacks have been so successful is, of course, also because RDP is sort of enabling enterprises to and users across these enterprises to connect remotely. So what do you believe are these things that the people, three key pillars of cybersecurity would be in the people, the processes, and the technology? What do you think are the most important things that enterprises must implement?
Thank you, Confidence. I love your energy, by the way. Very confident. Okay, so I think so I'm always very careful to give silver bullet answers to security questions, because I wish there was a silver bullet. We've been at this for a while. There's just none. Everything we try to do in security, really, at the end of the day, is just increase the layers, okay, that sort of make it more difficult. So let's talk about process, for example, first of all. So from a process perspective, I think that your processes need to be driven first of all by your policies. So for example, if I have a policy around, backup, for example, and one of the things we've done in Africa is really have very good policies that nobody has to. So if I have a policy around backup, that says that must be backup on all assets. So this is like assuming on our asset capitalization and asset. So if we say, we're going to take it back to have a standard critical asset database and incremental backup every day or full backup. And then after the standard, then I have my processes and procedures, and I'll start speaking exactly how things happen, such that when someone leaves the organization, it's almost like a working Bible or Quran or document, if you like, that says this is exactly how. So I think that's exactly what the processes should see that for. And processes and policies should align this practice. ISO.
Fene, we're having a really hard time hearing you. It's breaking.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I think it's a bit better. Yeah.
All right. So so from a policy perspective, I think it should be aligned to things like ISO, COBIT, NIST. Sometimes you could take a flavor of all three, which is what I choose to do. I just took a bits and pieces of all. That's from policies and processes. Okay. Now let's talk about technology. I think that technology should be driven by your cybersecurity strategy, because what we have now really is there's a proliferation of technological tools in our continent in the last 4, 5, 6 years. There's a solution to detect when a solution does not work. There is a solution for everything. And if you're not careful, what you're going to end up doing is having solutions that are even duplicating their responsibilities and roles. So I think technology should be driven from your cybersecurity strategy. So where exactly are we trying to play, and what exactly is critical to us? So that is exactly what should drive your technology. For example, a network access control may not be critical to me in a post-COVID era where I'm no longer working from the office. So the whole conversation about vendors, are just going to be able to log into my LAN and not exist anymore. And what I care a lot more about is a multi-factor authentication solution so that I have a second layer over my password. My users are connected across the world. And then on a people perspective, I think that from a people perspective, here's what I think. For people, you need to inform, you need to educate, and you need to test. So inform meaning things like nuggets, things like information, you can send emails. I mean, when certain things go wrong globally, your users need to know exactly what happened and how it affects your company. Educate, things like workshops, your user awareness, which we're going to talk about later. And then in terms of testing, you need to test to know exactly who are my high-risk users that just click on the link, the millionaire, they fall for it. And then who are the ones on the second level who maybe have, a more sense of cybersecurity. So that's my
thank you so much, Fene. I'm going to take you back on some of the things you said. For example, especially with the way things are evolving. You touched on backups, for example, and I just wanted to have that little conversation on the side. It's crazy how backups are not serving us anymore, especially in the context of ransomware. So the ransomware guys, for example, some of them know exactly, they first exfiltrate before they encrypt. So when you have your backups to restore, they're just going to say, okay, do you want the world to see your next generation plans in terms of technology? Do you want us to release it? And then you say, okay, you think about it, like, okay, you know what, I will just pay the ransom anyway. So I'm bringing that into the conversation because people often sometimes think that maybe being reactive sometimes might just cover the tracks for you. In this day and time, being proactive, like you discussed around the people, processes, and technology, is very key to even survival in the first place. Because while you might be able to recover in terms of maybe your cyber insurance or your backups and your cyber insurance cannot cover, for example, for things like intellectual property being released and being exposed on the internet. You will still have to pay those ransoms. So, really, that ransomware conversation is another very deep conversation to have all together. But I want to ask you, Sandip, too, what do you think are the important people, processes, and technology that practices in this sense, which enterprises must implement? Can you just give us something really quick in like a minute? Because I think we haven't even gone halfway through and our time is fast spent already.
So, some of the aspects have, already been covered by Fene. So, like in terms of from an insurance perspective, because I belong to an insurance company, so data is very critical to us. In terms of technology practices, one of the key things which we try to implement is the encryption of our data, access controls, identity management. Then especially putting, personally identifiable data or personal health information which are classified as sensitive by various data laws. In Kenya, we have a data law, so which actually classifies certain kind of information as highly sensitive, which typically falls into these two categories. In terms of security threat, how do I protect that information? So these are the kind of things what we do. And one of the most important things what as an organization, what we have been doing is sensitizing people. Actually, so that even actually yesterday it happened with me. I just received an invoice from a unknown vendor that I please process the invoice, and in fact I was quite tempted to click on it, but it so happened that because there is a sensitization program, program which was carried in our organization, so I just forwarded the mail to my IT team to verify the source of that particular email. So it turned out to be unsuspicious this thing. Now, other thing is that in terms of, you see, in any organization, no matter what amount of technology you implement, the weakest link is always the people in terms of their knowledge and in terms of their understanding of the gravity of a situation. Now think of a situation where we have implemented workplace mobility and we are accessing our core operating systems from outside. So here, constant threat detection in terms of awareness, in terms of employees of suspicious activity or in kind of, what should they download, what should not they upload. This kind of things, becomes very critical no matter how hard, no matter how much you invest on technology. But people becomes the primary as well as the weakest link in the whole equation of cybersecurity. That is as a practitioner, and that is that means as what we see on day-to-day basis. That's my point of view, actually.
Okay, that's another conversation also we're going to be having. How do we help people become a stronger link? We'll be discussing that very soon, but I like how you mentioned spear phishing, because that's also a very top threat vector right now. So I want to hear Winnie's voice. I'm so excited to see another woman. So hello, Winnie, please put on your camera. Winnie, how is your organization or those you advise, how do they practically prevent insider threats, especially those in the IT departments? I've seen a question from Chioma. Chioma is asking just about that, but Chioma, you took the words right out of my mouth. Winnie, are you there? I really want to hear your thoughts about insider threats, especially insider threats in the IT team, because these are the people who know what technology you have in your space, understand how your organization works. So an insider threat from the IT team is usually very dangerous. Winnie, I don't know if you're still here. Is Winnie here? If Winnie isn't here, please, by all means, Fene, you can speak about this. You can unmute your mic and speak about this.
Okay, so insider threats in IT.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the truth is that so there are also users in IT who are your normal users. Okay, so I mean, there will be users in IT who still have the same system access as legal or HR, or estate management or people like that. So your bigger risk really comes around your privileged users in IT, and they are bigger for two reasons. Because one, if they get disgruntled, they could hurt you. And two, if their access gets into the wrong hands, well, whoever it gets into, whether it is a hacker or malicious user, they could hurt you. So there are really two reasons why those guys in IT now become very critical to you. So first, I will always start from the strategic perspective. There need to be clauses when these guys join the organization, okay, that speak to confidentiality of information, and they sign up to such things. Because through this IT, you are going to see a lot of information. You're going to see back-end passwords for people. You're going to reset people's passwords. You're going to do things like that, okay? So there have to be clauses when you join that you sign up to say, okay, these are the penalties if I misuse my privilege or if I misuse my system access. There's also the AUP, the acceptable use policy, which we should have in our organization, that should speak to exactly what is the acceptable use for information that you have access to. So that's it. However, not everybody will stick to your policies. So you need to have another layer. And so the second layer now has to go technical. So I think that the privileged access management solution is important now, because while I have seen, and my background was in ethical hacking, so I did this for a long time. We have broken into vaults, okay? So we have broken into password vaults. So there's nothing that is fully protected. However, it gives you an extra layer of security such that at least the passwords are in a vault. And then the other thing that the privilege managed solution also helps is these guys now know that whatever they are doing is being recorded, okay? So everything you are doing is being recorded. Then I think that's at the preventive level. At the detective level, I think that you need to have an integrity monitor such that any change done by any administrator, you can tie it back and go ask, where was the CAB approval for this? So there's a lot of governance that needs to happen in that space. So yes, so policy perspective, there are things that need to be signed up on. There needs to be acceptable use policy, which they need to be aware of. So I always do my information security awareness separately for IT because they are a wonderful breed. So you cannot be talking to IT and HR on the same level of conversation, okay? So the privileged users need to, one, be protected by a privilege managed solution. There needs to record their activities, protect their usernames and password, probably in a vault. And then there needs to be detective ability to be able to detect when they have done something out, that probably is not been approved, because you always need to tie what they do to CAB approvals. And I think that, again, it also needs to be consequences when things go wrong. Otherwise, human beings will always continue to abuse it.
Thank you so much, Fene, for your thoughts there. The interesting bit around IT and its peculiarities. It's funny how cybersecurity conversations still always almost come down to the basics. CRA, for example, the basics you've just spoken about. So yes, once you address the basics, half the time you can then layer up and become and progress in your cyber resilience journey. Winnie, we missed you a bit. I actually wanted you to share your thoughts too about what you think people or enterprises can do to prevent insider threats, especially in the IT team. You want to chime in?
Yes, that is good. What happens is that insider threats is equal to the number of employees or people that can connect to the system within a financial sector. So what I would say the best ways to try and curb is to minimize the privileges that are being bestowed on these users. Let one person not have critical login that can do several things at the same time. They need the other party. Number two, the logins that the employees have been bestowed, what can they be able to do? What can they not be able to do? Do we have hierarchies? Do we have levels of authentication that is controlled? So we're looking at what controls do we have in place in terms of in case a transaction goes beyond a certain limit, or in case there's a sensitive activation that needs to be done, who can do it? So I would say there's need for each and every system in place to have limited privileges, so as to allow that we have a collaborative team. Number two, what training or what awareness do these employees have when it comes to being the first and foremost the agents of cyber insecurities? They are the first ambassadors that can cause cyber insecurity. It's the insider before you even think of the outsider. Number three, there's also an outsider called a vendor or a partner. What privileges do they have, and what engagement partnership do you have? Do you have a vendor management policy in place? At what point or at what level do they end their work for the rest to be able to move on? So that thing, if you collaboratively putting all that together, make sure that the insider systems are okay. And also from time to time, there's also need to scale up because security systems are changing. Insecurities are also becoming sophisticated day in, day out. The way people used to steal or rob a bank 10 years ago cannot be able to, it's not one of the threats currently. The threat has gone digital due to the digital transformation. So there is need for more additional money also into research and development. What are the new ways that these hackers are using? And have we employed a sophisticated way of trying to tame the outsider before getting in, so that at least when we are saying we are safe inside, also we are at least safer from simple vaults, that is. Yeah. That's what
Okay, thank you so much, Winnie. So that brings me to my next question, really. A lot of us have spoken about the things that enterprises need to do, but then how do you secure this funding? Sandip, in your own thoughts, what are your thoughts about how, security leaders within organizations can actually secure funding for their cybersecurity programs to support digital transformation in their enterprises? Because this has remained a problem, generally speaking, for a lot of cybersecurity leaders. So how would you advise that these people secure funding? How do you secure funding, for example, for your programs?
Yeah, presently there is as such no funding program available for that. Maybe you can have some grants, but from an insurance perspective, it's like what we offer is a risk transfer mechanism. Now for various enterprises, as an insurance company, we do arrange what is called a premium financing. It's a financing of your insurance program. So now think of an example. Somebody talked about digital extortion. So now, in terms of if you have a malware attack and you are in a situation where business disruption losses are much higher than actually trying to negotiate a malware or a ransomware attack, then as an insurance company, sometimes we advise go ahead and pay the extortion, which would be covered from our insurance policy. So now, if a risk transfer mechanism, if there's a funding which is required for that particular risk transfer mechanism, then depending on our relationship with the clients, we as a company, we sometimes take up discussions with various funding or financing programs wherein we come ahead and with a complete plan and have an insurance financing program, or what we can call a premium financing program, in terms of any kind of risk transfer mechanism. Also, one of the very important things is not only having a cybersecurity program or an insurance program. One of the very important thing is what is going to be the breach response. So in terms of if you're engaging in a risk transfer mechanism like an insurance company or an insurance carrier, they also advise you on the breach response. So now, even if you like to pay a digital extortion, so, and typically I'm just trying to put it in a very simplistic way. Suppose if they want you to pay in a Bitcoin, then I'm quite so sure, including myself, we do, it's most of the business leaders, they do not know how to actually use and mine a Bitcoin to pay digital extortion. So these are some of the things in terms of when you talk about funding not only in terms of financing, but in terms of the knowledge which comes when you engage a risk transfer mechanism to manage your cybersecurity.
Exactly. Okay, so we are fast running out of time. I just want to ask one really quick question to Fene. Fene, you had actually, or I don't know if to go send this to Winnie, but you had actually mentioned something around how you do cybersecurity awareness training. So in your opinion, how can we improve enterprise cybersecurity by creating awareness, and can training really be enough? And then what has been the strategy of your organization to ensure effectiveness of these trainings? And how often, for example, should they do these trainings, or should organizations have this training, considering its knock on both the economy and the cybersecurity landscape, the knock-on effects of COVID? So Fene, really quick, just maybe in 30 seconds, and we need 30 seconds. Just give us your thoughts.
Okay, so let's see, 30 seconds. First answer to your question, yes, with 100 exclamation marks. I think the awareness will help your security. What do? What I try to do is really take a lot of intelligence and use that intelligence in driving awareness. For example, I could show you graphs of how a lot of our threats could be linked to countries where our competitors have a lot of stronghold, okay? So that will get your attention. I could also show you in an awareness session about your country. So, for example, I have graphs of malware attacks per country. So when I'm speaking to Nigeria, I can be showing you, this is exactly the kind of attacks that we have been seeing in Nigeria. This is what you should be careful about. It's different when I'm in the Dubai office. It's different when I'm in the UK office. So I think that your cyber strategy should, first of all, speak to the users on their personal security. That way, they'll be a lot more connected. Then you now talk about how it could hurt the organization and examples of organizations that users have caused hurt to the organization and the impact it had on their balance sheet, the impact it had on their reputation, and things like that.
Thank you so much for that really quick share. Winnie, please go ahead, just 30 seconds, really quickly, just share with us your thoughts on cybersecurity awareness training.
Winnie is muted, so we can't hear you.
Winnie, you're muted, please.
Sorry for that. Thank you. Just to bring on the issue of awareness and training, is that the buy-in has to come from the management. Are they aware on the importance of training these employees when it comes to being the people that are the first agents of insecurity to the organization? The buy-in from the management gives a leeway, a better way for doing the trainings, which is done quarterly. But there's also an online training, simulated hacks, whereby you send something and see who are these very first people to be able to log in and get exploited. So that way it gives even a thumbs up in terms of what we are supposed to train on next and who are these targets, who are the risk employees. So we've done a profiling based on that. So awareness and training really, really plays a critical role when it comes to security internally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Thank you so much, Fene. Thank you so much, Sandip. And thank you so much, Kevin. This has been a very great conversation around how cybersecurity can actually support the enterprise that's going through digital transformation. And we've discussed security funding, We've discussed, proactive insider threat management, and we've discussed cybersecurity awareness. And I like all of the perspectives that you brought to bear. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much to the organizers for giving us this platform to discuss and share our thoughts on what should be in our continent. Bhavna, over to you. Thank you so much.
Sure. So confidence, I'm so happy that the panel discussion was beautiful, but we do have one question, if we can just quickly take it from the audience, because they've been eagerly waiting to ask from their side. So one of the question is from Chiom, who says that how do we address the issues of insider misuse, especially from top management, leading to increased vulnerabilities? Could we talk on that, confidence?
Yeah, sure. Kevin hasn't spoken in a while. I don't know. Kevin, can you take this question, or anyone else wants to take this question around insider threats?
I can do.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So you find that once the management has hierarchically planned all the employees, they have their privileges based on what they can be able to do. When they understand that the power they have is that privilege assigned, and you do as limited as possible, that way people will know that misuse of that misuse of that password given can be as fatal as anything else. And also they sign something called they sign the code of conduct. You have to read, understand, and so that when you are acting or when you're working, you understand that in case this and this doesn't go right, then you are out of the game because you went against the policy and the rest. So it's at times very good to put stringent measures, put it in policy, let people sign against it, and then they abide by it. That way it will be very, very straightforward to handle such employees who could be having godfathers and even friends on top who will always try to protect them for anything wrong that is happening. Thank you.
Okay, so like least privilege access, buckled in with a show and tell in terms of exploiting them and then letting these people see how these exploitations could possibly work. And I think that ties in well to Fene's threat modeling that he was speaking about. So that's excellent. Thank you so much, Winnie.
Thank you. So thank you so much for the incredible panel. We do have a lot of questions, but our next speaker is very much here. So thank you once again for your valuable time today.